Welcome back to the channel and welcome to part 2 in my Legendary Guitars series. If you missed guitar number 1, which was the guitar that changed everything, I will link to it above. But today we're looking at the most popular solid body electric guitar of all time. Of course, it's the Stratocaster. So today we're going to be looking at 10 things that make the Fender Stratocaster absolutely legendary. And as I mentioned in the first video in this series, we're looking at guitar designs that transcend merely being, an excellent instrument and are elevated to being absolutely iconic or legendary. So here we go. Here are the 10 things that make the Stratocaster a legend. All right, number 1 has to be the Stratocaster body shape. Released in 1954, it was a complete departure from Fender's previous guitar, the Telecaster. And as I mentioned in the Telecaster video, it really relied on the lap steels that came before it and still kind of mimicked the overall shape of like maybe an acoustic guitar or, a jazz guitar that preceded all the solid body designs. So when it came to the Stratocaster, the team at Fender was like, well, why do we need the sharp edges? It's not an acoustic guitar, right? This is an electric guitar. We can make it whatever shape we want. So suddenly you ended up with 2 cutaways, contours on the body, which made playing this an absolute dream. So number 1, of course, is the body shape. It's become iconic. When people think of electric guitar, this is one of maybe a couple designs that people immediately think of. So the body design, all the comfort cuts and contours by about 1957 remained completely unchanged other than some specialty models all the way to current time. So the body design, absolutely iconic, released 1954. Now the second thing that made the Stratocaster absolutely legendary is it was the first electric solid body guitar to feature 3 individual pickups. These were Alnico 3s originally, and it was paired with a 3-way switch. So you had 3 pickups and a 3-way switch. You could have the neck by itself, a middle by itself, which was completely new, and the bridge by itself. Now, these featured staggered pull pieces, and this was to balance out the tone from the strings at the time so that each string would ring out relatively equal in volume to all the other strings. So there were some great kind of innovations with these pickups to try to balance out the tone and basically to give the player a few more options. And of course, we know that evolved to eventually the 5-way switch, but originally it was the 3-way switch and 3 pickups, which really made this guitar stand out. Now, the third thing that makes the Stratocaster absolutely legendary is, of course, the trem system. Now, previous to 1954, Leo Fender and his team were trying to figure out how to make a trem system they'd be happy with. They used roller saddles to a fixed bridge and different kind of systems, and nothing really worked. And that's the thing that's so amazing about Leo Fender is once he found a design that worked, it remained almost unchanged, all the way through decades and decades of advancements. And, eventually it found its way to like a 2-point trem and a pop-in bar and things like that. But really, the spirit of the design is almost unchanged. It just worked. So amazing trem system, unlike anything else anyone had ever seen. Next up is the integration between the pickguard, the pickups, the pots, and the switch. Now, there is nothing easier to work on than a Stratocaster. And as I mentioned in my Tele video, well, Leo Fender was extremely pragmatic. He didn't want anything overly complex. He valued simplicity, efficiency, and that is just representative of the Stratocaster. Remove a few screws, pull your strings off, and you have access 100% to all the electronics, pickups, pots, and switches. And to this day, if you want to put a 10-way super switch on a Strat or swap the pickups, one of the easiest guitars to do work on. And that's just, an emblem of how Leo Fender worked. So nothing like this was seen before where you could just remove a few screws and have access to everything. So it made working on the Strat, replacing anything, super easy. Number 5 is, of course, well, the 5-way switch. Now, as I mentioned, the Strat was released with a 3-way switch and 3 pickups. And according to Fender, well, by the late 50s, people were finding those in-between combinations, just kind of finessing the switch so it would get stuck in between 2 pickups and giving a totally unique tone. But it wasn't until the late 70s that the Strat actually got its 5-way switch. And of course, position 4 has become absolutely iconic. Position 2 as well. But you know, when people think of Strats, that position 4 is one of the first ones they definitely think of because it's so distinctive and so unique to this instrument. So the 5-way switch absolutely made this guitar, you know, multiple times as versatile, and it has become actually one of the most tones that are associated with this guitar specifically. Well, since we've talked about the pickups, the bridge, and the 5-way switch, we need to talk about that Stratocaster tone. Is there a more iconic tone in the guitar world than a Strat? Debatable maybe. I think the Strat stands atop the mountain by itself. It's such a versatile guitar and so iconic, instantly recognizable. And I think part of that is, yes, it's the sum of the parts working together. It's the Alnico 3 pickups, then Alnico 5, the trem bridge, the ability to put these two pickups on together or these two, giving you unique tones. Oftentimes the Strat is described as a bell-like tone. Clean, clear, ringing. You know, that's the Stratocaster tone, and it's been used in so many different genres, and that's the beauty of the design. Very versatile, from, you know, like really funky kind of tones on the in-between positions to just a clean, a big full neck pickup to, you know, zingy in the bridge. You know, anything from like surf, blues, rock, even jazz, you know, all the tones you want, you can usually find on a Stratocaster. And that's what made and makes this design so legendary. You buy one guitar, even if you have like the humbucker single version, you buy one guitar and it gets you almost all the tones you can dream of. That's part of the magic of the Strat. It just gives you so much out of this design. Number 7 is really true of all Fender guitars, from the lowliest Squire all the way up to the most expensive custom shop. And that is, Fender guitars are rugged. They're simple and they're rugged. And that's the way Leo Fender wanted them. If something went wrong with your neck, well, just pull it off and put on a new neck. You know, at the time, with all the glue in neck joints, that would be a very expensive and intensive experience to try to reset a neck or put a new neck on a guitar. With Leo's designs, well, couldn't be more simple. And everything from, you know, a headstock that doesn't tilt back, that's just a slab of maple, extremely strong, extremely durable. So that was like a hallmark of the guitar. And I think that's part of the reason why that makes, you know, these guitars legendary is you can find a vintage Fender beat to crap and it still functions perfectly. It still, you know, sounds amazing. These guitars just absolutely last and last and last. And that's true to this day as well. All the way through the Stratocaster design, you can see, you know, that ethos of Leo Fender for simplicity, for function, and I think, that rugged nature of these guitars, that they could last years and years and years of, you know, crazy touring and all that stuff, and still come out the other end totally fine. That's part of what makes the Strat legendary. Number 8, well, the Stratocaster has become the most popular guitar of all time. If that doesn't speak to, you know, the value, the versatility, and the legendary status of this guitar, well, I don't know what would. Now, the interesting thing is, according to Fender, well, sales did not go well. In 1954, when the Strat was released, it was not a popular guitar. In fact, people were kind of deriding it, you know, calling these guitars gimmicky, or they looked like a toy, you know, with the double cutaways, things that we kind of take for granted now, right? Like, this is an iconic shape. But at the time, people were like, well, that just looks super weird, you know, gimmicky with that trem system and 3 pickups and a 3-way switch. Who needs 3 pickups, you know? Is anyone going to use that trem system? That's so gimmicky, right? So according to Fender, people were like not that impressed with the design at first. And it wasn't until these guitars started getting into the hands of some musicians that partnered with Fender, started showing up on TV, and then, you know, the litany of players that started to use it and realized the design is not just great, but genius, you know, that really these guitars started to take off. So it wasn't until like the late 50s, early 60s, you know, rock had kind of started to get into swing a little bit, that these guitars really took off. But at first, yeah, they were not popular, and people looked at the design and was like, nope, not interested. And of course, as we know, it's become the most popular and one of the most legendary guitars of all time. The Fender Strat is a Jeep Wrangler. It's a Honda Civic. Any part you want to change on your Stratocaster, and there are 1,000 aftermarket options. It's absolutely insane. You don't like single coils on your Strat? Well, put in 2 humbuckers, get a loaded pickguard, and you're off to the races. It's like, a 20-minute job and your guitar is completely transformed. As I mentioned, you can put super switches on. I've put carbon fiber necks on, glass necks on a Strat. You can do anything you can dream of. You want locking tuners? There's 10 different options, all great, all budgets. You can do a budget build. You can do something, more extreme. Imagination is the limit. If you want a custom Strat, it's relatively easy to do because of the bolt-on nature right from 1954. As I mentioned, so many things Leo Fender got right from the beginning that hasn't changed. And the ability to mod or transform your guitar, with relative ease and not like a huge skill level is absolutely astonishing. And that's part of what happens when, a community embraces a guitar design and it transcends being just a great model to being, iconic or legendary. You get that aftermarket support to build the Strat of your dreams. And finally, number 10, the Stratocaster is the most copied design of all time. If that doesn't say you're an icon, nothing ever will. You only get copied once you reach the pinnacle. And every guitar maker from, the cheapest $75 guitars all the way up to, boutique makers and everybody in between, almost every company has an S-style design, including my own signature model. Definitely has that S-style vibe. Incredible guitar. But yeah, the design of the Strat transcends almost every maker. Everybody makes their take on the Strat. So, that just doesn't happen by accident. Like I said, the Strat, right from 1954, and the features and the genius of Leo Fender, and some of those, things that he did that nobody else was doing, like all the tuning machines on one side, no tilt back on the headstock, straight string pull through the nut. Like he knew what he was doing. Those things make a guitar work well. And so, yeah, right from 54 all the way up to present day, absolutely amazing. There's just nothing like a Strat. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I will link to all my stuff down in the video description below if you want to check it out, the gear I use, tab store, t-shirt store, all that kind of stuff. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have yourself a great day. Take care.